Morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be part of this session and uh, getting this opportunity to discuss Mr. Magow, the basic evolution and growth and where we stand in the digital aspect of our economy and in our country at this point of time, meaning somebody who has been part of it, has been an innovator and taking ahead. It will be really very insightful to know his views, how we are poised to move ahead in this area. So won't take much time on that, and we will really open it with Mr. Magow's views on this subject. So, sir, meaning today digital and innovation go hand in hand. Whatever we call as innovation is seen to be digital. Just as a past in the history, like, the printing press, steam engine, lot of other invention happened. Today, everything has the core is digital. Digital is a great leveler. The entry barriers have been lowered. Unlike the legacy industries where we needed, where one lot of capital, lot of experience, it required to open lot of other doors to become successful. Digital provides a level playing field. People can, at least the entry barriers are low. Of course, the competition after that is as tough as it is like anywhere else. So, how do you see, meaning where were we earlier and how have we come to this point of view, to this date, and how are we poised to move ahead? If you could just share your views on it.
Happy to.
Being a practitioner, you would have a first-hand experience about it.
Yeah, good morning everyone, and good morning Rishi, and please call me Rajesh, please. Yeah, I think, like you rightly pointed out, Rishi, so yes, the innovation is largely associated to digital world today, but I would say it's actually technology, right? And technology has been sort of leading the innovation. Technology has been and at a very, very fast pace has been leading the innovation over the years now. So much so that, whatever product that we are using today, take any example, take automobile industry today, there's more software in the car today than hardware, for example. You take healthcare, there's so much of software in the healthcare equipments today. And pick any example, right? So there is, technology has led the way for, innovating for the benefit of the consumer, for benefit of, ultimately consumer from a consumption standpoint, but also the businesses, right? And if you look at the evolution, over the years, it's actually, pretty young. Just specifically the digital. Let's say India-specific industry. I mean, of course, it was, in the Western world, first it was led by the Western world. The first phase of, I would say, the digital innovation was led by Western world, the US largely, and to some extent Europe. And then the second phase of digital evolution was led by China, when the smartphones were born. The device suddenly changed, and a lot of the innovations that actually came from China's camp. And I'm very happy to share that, the third phase of evolution is actually being led by India. And I'll give you a few examples. And in a short span of, 20 years old industry, MakeMyTrip is turning 25 end of March. But we know that, first 5 years, 2000, 2005, when we had started, there was nothing happening. There was hardly any ecosystem at that point in time, the digital ecosystem. So very young, 20 years, industry has come a long, long way. For not necessarily, sort of caught up with whatever was happening, say in the Western world, but also more importantly, China, because, China had changed the game as well. But also have reached now of late where we are leading with some of the innovations, specifically in the financial services sector, right? Your UPI is a great example of that, which we are trying to potentially actually lend that particular, sort of technology to the other countries today as well, right? So it has, and it's not only one example, and and you have to see this in the context of the scale and the size of the population and the country that we have, and very diverse as well, right? From rural to semi-urban to urban, and if you have to solve some of these, the problems of large size country. And leading with technology innovation, I think it's phenomenal. So, and then the world can get benefit out of it. So, I think with the way at least we see it, having seen the last 2 decades of evolution happening, and if I like fast forward and project it for next 10 years, next 15 years, next 20 years, you will see tremendous amount of innovation being led by India. Not necessarily, sort of we would be following and catching up, because of the fact that we've got the talent and, serious amount of talent that we have. And I think we have sort of evolved from just, sort of catching up stage to now sort of leading the innovations as well. And very complex problems. And if we are able to provide some of the solutions with the tech innovation in the digital space, solving really complex problems, the rest of the world is going to find that very, very easy for them to be able to sort of follow. So I think we've come a long way, and the future seems very, very bright in terms of evolution, and specifically India leading the way.
Nice. Rajesh, you put it very well. But if we just look at it, meaning I think much of the base which was provided for this digital innovation, the growth of this business, was also because of the way our telecom revolution happened in our country, and the data prices fell. I don't think other countries where data prices are higher compared to us, this kind of innovation. So really we are a hub of innovation that way.
Absolutely.
Because I don't see the prices now moving in any way which will act as a hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Data was one. Telecom data pricing was one, and then also the devices, the smartphones, sort of devices also over the years have become. They used to be very expensive, and if you go back in history, it started with BlackBerry and Nokia, and today Android and iOS are leading in the fact that Apple is actually manufacturing a lot of the phones, and we're becoming the very important sort of exporter of those phones out of India. We've come a long way.
Whenever we talk about our economy, meaning the dominating theme is about inclusive growth. Meaning inclusive growth is something which is, meaning it's required, it's must, and in India, in case of disparities, it's even much more important. So meaning if you look at the digital future, digital as an engine of growth, meaning there's a urban India, there's a rural India, there's a divide, whether it is in every product, whether it's an automobile, whether it's telecom, any gadget, FMCG, all these products. So meaning how do you see digital going forward? Meaning we still have about 250 or 300 million of people who are on feature phones. Obviously they will not be able to take the benefits of the digital side as much as the people with smartphones. As you said, smartphones was also a factor in fueling the digital growth. So meaning, is there an issue with regard to the digital growth also, where does it bring more, is it more inclusive, or we need to do something to make it more inclusive?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And my view on this is that when you look at, again, it's a question of evolution, right? So the first lot that got benefited out of this whole, tech evolution, digital world evolution in India was obviously the urban class, and maybe the semi-urban class as well. I think I do see the next wave of growth, or the benefit that is going to go and accrue is going to be the rural India as well. I'll give you a few examples, and I think, and the reason why I say that, and I'm pretty confident that'll happen, is that is because of the foundation that has been set. Now, if you take your mind back, some of the foundational pillars that are going to drive inclusivity already to an extent driving in in terms of just benefits reaching out to the rural areas without any leakage was actually in 2010 when the UID program was was started by Nandan. And in a country like ours, for us to be able to have, and people sometimes sort of forget that but that was and is going to be the real foundation, because you needed one unique ID for you to be able to sort of leverage the technology on top of it, right? And once that foundation is set and that process is already there, so every new person will have a unique ID. In digital world, that's so critical for the benefits then to be able to sort of get mapped to that ID very, very digitally, very, very efficiently. So that is a very big foundation that has been set. The second foundation that has been set already is, as I was alluding to, is actually the UPI. So the democratizing the payment, peer-to-peer transfer, and then, the Aadhaar card sort of leading to every person be able to open the bank account, link it with the Aadhaar card, all the benefits, all the, from an inclusion standpoint, without any leakage, intermediaries, etc., efficiently, quickly, with full agility, going into the hands of the real recipients in the rural areas is going to go a long way to benefit that economy. That is point number one. I'll tell you the other areas where it's already evolving and it'll evolve more, and this is because of the sheer internet reach that we have. Now, I agree there are 250 million feature phones, but even some of the applications are actually now can be used on feature phones as well, and the smartphones are becoming even more cheaper. So there, I don't worry about the device anymore at all, because if you look at some of the numbers, 2030, we would be 1 billion people who would be on smartphones. Now that's like huge, right? So that will cover a lot of the rural population as well. But some of the areas that I see in that, the direct benefit of the reach that the internet provides through that cheap device is one, access of information, right? And many avenues that are opening up for people can be sitting anywhere and can participate in the business avenue or even the employment generation opportunity, not necessarily moving to the urban area, because you can do it remotely. And we know these days that, and maybe thanks to COVID, a lot of the innovation has happened in terms of, hybrid way of working and operating, right? Completing your job sitting wherever you are, because you've got the technology, you've got the access to data, you've got the access to the tools, and you don't really need to move your base, right? So I think there's going to be huge advantage in terms of access of right kind of technology, tools, information that you would have in the rural areas. And some part of that is already happening. Some part of that, I think it's going to accelerate. And then the other thing that is also going to help is that, and for that maybe, what we need to do more work on, and some, like clear investment has to go into creating more awareness, as well as real investment in the sector, and that is in the education sector, the skills, skill development sector, if you will, where a lot of people will have to just come to the terms with that not necessarily the nature of jobs or the kind of jobs that we used to think back in the years, right? 40, 50 years ago, typically in our education system, there was a clear path defined for whatever, sort of basic education, primary, secondary, academic education will be, and then there are only 3 or 4, career paths that you could choose. I think we will have to just have a complete mind shift on that, where there are so many opportunities. Like I'll give you an example on travel and tourism industry only linked to that. There is someone called, and probably everybody sitting in the audience would be familiar with that. Let's say, on social media, there are so many creators today. There are so many influencers today. and if you think those influencers and creators are sitting all in the urban areas and picking up those sort of job opportunities and doing very well for themselves, that's not true. You can be sitting in Northeast and then you can have those local skills. Like in our case, for example, if we have to, if you have to leverage, let's say, local knowledge of a particular destination sitting in J&K, we are definitely looking for a local person out there who understands the terrain really well, who understands the real detailed, deep details about that, about the state and the destination. We would be very happy to sort of work with him and promote that destination, for example, right? So and a lot of this is going to bring in the inclusivity only. And I'm sure there are many other examples that you could take on that. But I think fundamentally, for us to be able to, which is one area that I think that we need to, the government, the public sector, the private sector will have to do a lot more work on is one, creating awareness, changing the, just doing changing the mindset, and also making actual investment in sort of pushing and doing some skill development to be able to pick up new avenues of job opportunities.
Rajesh, while you were speaking about that obviously there's no boundaries, regional or something, then it struck me actually, in a way, digital is quite inclusive because it knows no regional, no national, no boundaries. So it's like the world is one place.
Totally. Absolutely.
You talked about the government and etc. Meaning, what strikes me, when the IT revolution happened in the country, when the IT software industry picked up, people used to say, when that became symbols of India's growth, and these were shining, some of the shining companies came, which we talked about. It was said that that happened because government was not there. That was an area where government had very little to do. So that was maybe, people used to say in that manner. But anyway, a lot has changed since then, and the government is a great facilitator every day. But in the digital as an area, do you have any think there's any specific things which we are which the government needs to do as a facilitator? Obviously, creating awareness is one, or in a manner where further growth happens in this particular thing.
Actually, to be honest, government has been doing a lot already. In fact, the fact that the digitization drive in India is actually spearheaded from the top is doing a lot already. Let's say the focus on startup community, starting the startup programs, the kind of visibility that has got, because I think it is understood at the top that the world is going to move towards this, and therefore we should be just absolutely be at the forefront on adopting technologies and stuff like that. So if you really see the amount of work that is happening on expanding the digital infrastructure, again, just go back and see 10 years ago. Today, every sector, every possible record is digitized, which wasn't the case, right? And look at even for your, let's say, income tax and or the legal records or the real estate records or the anything to do with financial services and so on. So I think there's a lot, because a lot of that happens, specifically on, let's say, travel and tourism industry. If you look at, the airport traffic management, like DigiLocker or the, sort of Digi Yatra programs are game changer. And they need to be absolutely scaled up. Now, these are serious investments that are happening on creating digital infrastructure. UPI, we spoke about it. Aadhaar, we spoke about it. I would actually say that, we should not lose momentum. I don't think we need to do more new areas, because I think the focus is there in all the right areas for government to be able to sort of, give strong push on this front. I just don't want, any one of us, like any of the stakeholders, to lose momentum, because the outlook for the Indian economy in general is really, really good. look at the growth rate as compared to India GDP growth rate as compared to the rest of the world, we are absolutely marching ahead, and I don't see it slowing down. And therefore, all what it needs right now is that we don't lose focus, we don't lose momentum, we just absolutely keep executing on our plans, make the investment in the right areas, don't cut back on investments because there will be more investments required, because the technology is one such area where it evolves really, really fast. And at least in the private sector, we are very cognizant of it, and we continue to keep looking ahead. What is coming in the form of new technology and how should we embrace it, and what kind of investments and resources required for that. So I would say, I think just keep the momentum going. Don't lose the momentum, because one of the risk, by the way, in the digital world that happens is that if you lose the momentum, then somebody else is sitting out there to be able to just grab that opportunity as well. So in no time, the innovation can move to somewhere else. If we just relax a little bit, we lose the momentum and lose the focus. So that risk we should avoid. Otherwise, I think we are on the right track and we're making all the right moves right now.
That's true. Meaning, coming to the, since we were on the this thing of the government acting as a facilitator, so currently that Personal Digital Data Protection Act, obviously it is a law, but still not implemented, and the rules have been just unveiled right now for feedback, industry stakeholder consultation. You being a key player who will participate in that. I just wanted to ask you, meaning, do you think it is the right time for bringing this kind of a law to implement this kind of a law, or a longer transition time is required? And second, do you think, because a lot of personalized selling, personalized building of businesses, etc., is in terms of this whole data and cross-selling of data. So obviously, if this thing of seeking consent, erasing, etc., it's good in a way. There can be no two views about it. But do you also think that it's like putting the cart before the horse, that it becomes it brings that kind of a disruption, which is becomes a little more harsh, and it spoils the momentum at which we are moving?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question again. So I think the way we need to look at it is at a very fundamental level. The core issue that is getting attention, and therefore there is need to address that, etc., is not wrong. So you want to obviously protect personal data, you want to have data privacy, and by the way, again, I think digital world, because of its scale and size, and gets all the limelight and the glory, and sometimes just maybe too much of attention. But if you really think harder, and look around, it was, some of those practices, some of those issues, some of those, needs were always there, even in the physical world, even when the digital world had not really evolved. And therefore, there are statutes, there are laws to protect, at the right point in time, they were all introduced, and they exist today. It's not that they don't exist today. So therefore, the way we should approach is, if we are seeing some burning issue around us, and therefore we need to address that, by all means we should address that. We should always address that, with deep understanding of the issue, and figuring out the right kind of solution. And to your point, and very, very important point that you made, in the digital world, while on one side we say that we want to push a lot of innovation, we want to push, keep the momentum and the speed going on innovation. You want to lead it today. Maybe today we were, over the years, India has been leading on the services side. Can we just also tomorrow in future lead, become like, sort of a global product innovation country as well? And and keeping that also in mind, the way to do that will be to do it properly, do it looking at every aspect of it, and not necessarily stalling the innovation, if I may use that word, right? I don't think that's really the intent, to be honest, because see, otherwise we won't really be talking about innovation push, etc. as well. I think if we are able to just spend more time on it and go deeper into trying to understand, and also most importantly having a level playing field, not necessarily trying to sort of create this digital world a completely new world and a physical world completely new world, or maybe the legacy world as two different worlds, because I don't think that, because the consumers are the same. Consumers are consuming physical infrastructure and buying offline, buying online, consuming all, both in the physical world as well as in the internet world. So as long as we stay focused on the real core issue of protection for the consumer per se. Now, consumer happens to buy on an e-commerce platform or happens to buy on a retail store, doesn't really matter. That particular issue around private information needs to be addressed, specifically on financial services, etc., by all means. And if there is anything that needs to be done to further tighten it, bringing in checks and balances, and trust you me, the industry players, the entire industry across the board, I would say even the physical world and the digital world, would all be very game for it. So I think as long as we do it in an iterative manner, in a consultative manner, with a deep understanding of the issue, I don't really see an issue of that.
So consultative approach is the best approach.
Absolutely.
That's what it's like. The more we consult each other, the needs of each other is
absolutely,
well,
because we appreciate then each other, and then invariably you would end up having the right solution. Right.
This brings me, meaning about a year back, this the Ministry of Corporate Affairs trying to brought about a paper on digital competition bill, that ex-ante regulations, that right now it's very dynamic. So let's have ex post, what is it called, that once something, whatever is seen anti-competitive happens, somebody complains, then you get into it. So have ex-ante regulations, putting the regulations beforehand, and then so that the parameters are set and this is it. So competition law is already there. So do you think there was a need, this thing, as you have rightly pointed out, there's nothing different between a physical and a digital world. The business remains the same, the consumer remains the same. So, but the other thing is that digital technology moves at a very fast pace, meaning 5 years back, we did not know about the AI and the Gen AI, the way it is bringing about changes. So you think this kind of a ex-ante law, are we ready for it? Should we have it? Or as you rightly said that, look at a business, look at a sector, with not physical or digital.
Yeah, again, I would see this particular topic and issue more focusing on the core issue that we are trying to address, right? So core issue that if we are trying to address, that there may be some enhancements, some upgrade that is required, some more checks and balances that is required to be able to address the issue of anti-competitive practices, or and if you go back in history, again, I would just reiterate that point. It's also the evolution, and we used to have an MRTP Act back then, Monopolistic Restricted Trade Practices Act. They always existed. And then the Competition Law of India. And then now what we are trying to do, maybe, another form of, sort of statute. Rather than focusing too much on the form, I would say we should stay focused on what issue we are trying to address. And if we are, and if we stay focused on that particular issue, now whether that happens to be in world A or a world B doesn't really matter. Absolutely doesn't matter, because concept does not change. Because there could be anti-competitive activity in any part of the country, in any of the sector that you would be doing business in, right? And there are global benchmark, best practices that you could look at it. So that is the first point that I would make. You stay focused on addressing that particular issue. Now, if that issue can be addressed with the existing law, by upgrading that law, by all means do it. if there is, another form, amendment, etc., that you want to bring in, you can always consider that. But it needs to be obviously done it properly. It needs to be, keeping in mind that the core issue needs to be addressed, not digress from that. That's point number one. The point number two that you were alluding to, sometimes it could be the timing thing also. That, is it the right time for us? Sometimes it could be, very young industry, young evolving industry and moving really, really fast. Either we keep up the pace with then, revisiting that time and again, at a shorter frequency, or we sort of wait for some more time and let it evolve because it's just very changing really, really fast, and then bring in the sort of changes, if you will. But having said that, the point number one remains the most important point for me. If we see an issue again, the approach should be more consultative, and the good news is it is consultative today. And we not necessarily bring in any other sort of agendas in the picture. Stay focused on addressing the issue. You can come up with any of the rules. Like I gave you the example, those rules were always there, right? So it's not that it's a new thing that we are trying to bring in.
That was very nicely put, actually. Yeah, I think it's the best feedback which, if people are listening, the government can take from it. Rajesh, there's another point, it's often said that when you open your window, fresh air comes, but apart from the fresh air, you get some flies and mosquitoes also. So in the digital world, obviously, it's all the convenience, everything, but one of the flip side is about the cyber security issues. Data is out there. The recent instances of digital arrest and these kind of things. Even otherwise, it said that, senior citizens who are not very well tuned often fall prey to this thing. Well, what are your thoughts exactly? Cyber security, it's an issue, of course, meaning how do we tackle it? Of course, education awareness is one, but how do we?
Yeah, no, again, a really, really good question. I mean, and like they always say that there is technology or maybe any other sort of, area always has a darker side as well, right? So, and we need to be cognizant of it. We need to be aware of it. We need not be in denial mode. We need to accept it and we need to address it, right? So I think the first important point is that, yes, please don't deny this, that cyber crime and the cyber security is not an issue. It is definitely an issue. And all companies globally, they face it. And therefore, what is that that needs to be done? And and a lot of the businesses, a lot of the organization, including MakeMyTrip, would have made tremendous amount of investment and brought a lot of focus in this area because it is important, because it'll hurt our business, right? At the end of the day. So similarly, so one obviously side of attacking this or addressing this issue is, make the right kind of investments so that you can. Invariably, you would have seen, Rishi, that the criminal mind is always few steps ahead of you, right? So how do I sort of look at making investments, in a manner that we are able to sort of, almost think proactively what they might be thinking, and therefore put checks and balances in place. So, and there are technologies. The good news is there are technologies, there are tools that exist today for you to be able to just deploy. And there will definitely be investment, but it's the right kind of investment, because if you don't make those investments, you would suffer, right? And you don't want to, have those issues in your business and then start sort of addressing and learning lesson from there and start addressing that. And I think you should be proactive in making investments. And then the other way of addressing this is that, make the law against these crimes also very, very strict, right? And then now we have cyber crime cells, and they're doing a fantastic job, by the way, now of late, and they've come up to speed, they've learned the technologies, the skill development has happened. So you have to have right kind of sort of police force to check that as well. The third important aspect is the collaboration. I think in this world, the collaboration is even more important, because a lot of the businesses, a lot of the data you might have, right? Even in our industry, we keep discussing that credit card fraud, for example, is one area where it's not only here. We know you travel abroad. Next time when you come back from some of the countries, you will have to actually, banks will change the card for you, literally, because you've gone and you've used the card, and that card might have got exposed there and all that. So those are good practices. But I think the collaboration in terms of just data sharing, I think that is the aspect that we can perhaps do more. And we keep discussing at IAMAI as well as a sort of industry initiative with a lot of the members of IAMAI, and we will continue to keep making those efforts, where if we collaborate more, we share more, even within the industry, because it's a common problem for the industry, it's a common problem for the country. And also with the law enforcement agencies, I think we would be able to address this even better. I think we can probably do, investments are happening, the skill development is happening, the laws are in place. I think if there is one area that we can do probably a lot more is collaboration.
It was such an engaging conversation that I just, couldn't think that I may have overshot my time. But before I close, it will not be proper if I don't, meaning the travel and tourism industry which you spearhead is really, really...
Yeah, no problem.
No, if you can, before we leave, if Rajesh can just give a view, meaning that this whole industry has quite changed. So how do you...
Yeah, I hope whoever is coming next is not missing the flight because of me. So let me just tell you one quick, like half a minute. Travel and tourism industry coming out of COVID, recovery has been great, and it's on the growth path, and fundamentally going in the right direction, positive outlook, both from demand standpoint, supply standpoint, and no complaints on that right now. I just don't think, I wish and pray that there is no another virus coming from somewhere. But otherwise, everything else looks hunky-dory right now. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.